Today's lesson is going to be focusing on linear inequalities. If you open up to page 36, you'll be able to copy down these notes. If you don't want to copy down all of these notes, you can abbreviate it because step one is review. It's just remembering that when you're isolating y for an inequality and you multiply or divide by a negative number on both sides, you need to flip the sign. Step 2 and 3 are just graphing it in slope-intercept form. Step 4 is what is new. Step 4 is saying, hey, if there's an equal to symbol below the inequality sign, then our line that we draw is going to be solid, just like we always draw our lines. Yep, arrows at the ends. But if the inequality symbol does not have an equal to, meaning it's just less than, or it's just greater than, then it's going to be a dashed line, because what it's saying is that any coordinate points on that line are not solutions of that inequality of that system. Then step 5 is to check a point, and we're going to be shading. Checking a point is just picking a point that's x and y, and whatever that coordinate point is, you put that in for x and that in for y, and see, hey, does this inequality remain true? If it is true, that point is a solution of that inequality. So we're shading on that side where that point is. If the point is not, if that ends up not being true, then you shade the other side. For inequalities, you always shade up or down. There's never left or right. It's always up or down. And you'll be able to see them here. Let's do problem number 1. Problem number 1 on page 36 is not set up in slope-intercept form like we want it to be. So we are going to put it into slope-intercept form by subtracting 2x. We get negative 3y is less than negative 2x plus 15. Then we're going to divide everything by negative 3. Since we are dividing by a negative number, we need to make sure we flip this sign. See, I didn't add an equal to or anything. It just takes it and you flip it. 2/3 x minus 5. Now I'm going to graph this. Well, my b is negative 5, so I'm going to plot my point here. And my slope is 2/3, so I'm going to go up 2 to the right 3. And I'm going to do this straight off the graph and the opposite direction. Now I need to look at, is it going to be a solid line or a dashed line? Well, there's no equal to symbol here, right? It's just greater than, so it's going to be a dashed line. What I mean by this is you're literally going to take the line and you're going to dash it. It's kind of like a broken up line. Now step 5. See how 0, 0 over here is kind of far away from the line? I'm going to use 0, 0 as a point. It's usually my go-to. So if I use 0, 0, that means my x is 0, my y is 0. So I get 0 is greater than 2/3 times 0, because that's where the x is, minus 5. I'm going to simplify. I get 0 is greater than, well, 2/3 times 0 is 0. Minus 5, and then 0, let's simplify, is greater than, 0 minus 5 is negative 5. This is true. 0 is greater than negative 5. So that means my shading is going to be wherever this 0, 0 is. It's going to be all on this side. So I'm going to take my highlighter or my pencil, right, and you're going to shade it in. That means any point anywhere, as you can see, I'm going to draw points here. Any of these points, anywhere, are all solutions of this inequality. None of the ones on the line are because it's broken, and none of the ones here are because it's not shaded. So let's go ahead and flip to page 37 and try number 4. Well, this is a vux, so it's going to cross the x-axis. At the 7, I'm going to draw a dashed line up and down. If I try 0, 0, it just becomes 0 is greater than 7. This is false. So I'm not going to shade this side. I'm going to shade the other side, but this is still shading up, right? Even though it looks like it's left to right, it's shading up because on the number line that's going to the greater numbers. You can go ahead and practice using any of these pages. this video is going to connect to the next part of the lesson, which is system of inequalities. You're going to want to go ahead and copy down this set of notes, which is the same thing as before, right? You're graphing the inequalities, including the shading, and then where the shading is where the final answer is. So go ahead and pause the video to copy this down. And we're going to get started on number 1. I'm going to assign kind of a color to each. I'm going to give this one red and this one blue so that I can literally see my lines where I graph them. They're set up the way I want them to, so I'm going to start with the red. I'm going to go down to -1. It's a positive slope of 1 with a dashed line. So that is what I'm drawing here. You can also plot points to help you here. Now here's a trick. See how it says y is greater than? This trick will only work if it's y then the inequality symbol. So I go to my y, in this case it's the -1, right, my b, and it's all the numbers that are greater than. So I'm going to shade everything above because it's greater than. Now I'm going to plot in blue down at -5. And again, it's a slope of +1. So I'm going to go up by 1s. You can use points. Take a look at this. This says y is less than. So I go to my y, which is right here, my b, and I go less than everything below that. So it's everything below the line. Do we see any purple here, any overlap? No, right? So this is actually a no solution because they do not overlap. Let's do an example where they do overlap. Number 2. I'm going to make this one red, this one blue. I'm going to go up to 7 because it's already in slope-intercept form. I'm going to use a slope of 1/3 because that's what's given to us. And this is going to be a dashed line. That's probably the newest part here along with the shading. It says y is less than, so I'm going to shade less than this line, everything below. Then I'm going to plot and graph my blue line. It's +4 and a negative slope, but the negative slope is solid because it says equal to. So I am going to graph that as a solid line. I then see y is greater than or equal to. So I go up from the y. So it's everything above this line. If you notice, there is an overlap. I'm just going to darken it here with this purple paint just so that we can literally see it. So all my solutions are any of the ones, and I'm going to erase the blue and the red just to see it better. My solutions for this system are any of the ones on the blue line near the shading or in the shading. If you keep it here, that's okay. It's the overlap is what I want to make sure is clear, right? If you are using a pencil, you're going to want to make sure that it's darker in this area. If you want to use color, go ahead and do that. But this is where your solution is in purple. You can go ahead and practice on any of these pages, and you'll see sometimes they're not in slope-intercept form. And you're going to have to change that, and that's okay. The last part of systems is going to be on page 45. And so you're going to copy down these notes, right? You're going to pick a line, and you're going to figure out, is it solid or dashed? Is it shading above or below? What is the B? What is the M, right? What is your y-intercept? What is your slope? And then you repeat the steps for the other side. What we're working on is doing this backwards. Once you have these notes written down, we're going to get started on number 1. I'm going to assign a color to each of these lines just so it's easier for me. So here's this one. And here's this one. I'm going to darken the shading just so that we can see it better. It's everything that's in the middle here. Okay. So in pink, it's a solid line, right? And the shading is all below. So I'm going to set that up to be less than or equal to. So y is less than or equal to. It's equal to because it's a solid line. And it's less than because it's everything below the line that's shaded. Great. Well, it's going to be mx plus b. So something x plus b. My b is positive 2. And my m, well, I need to find another point. Okay, here's another point. I'm going to count it from here to my b. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right 2. So I just found my slope, which is 5 over 2. We just wrote the inequality for the pink line. Remember, this is going to be a system. I still have to do it for the blue line. So again, I set it up y. Okay, well, it's a solid line, and it's shading above this line. So y is greater than or equal to. Set up my x. I need to find my b, which is a negative 2, so this is a minus 2 here. And I need to find my slope. So I'm going to go from b to that connecting point, right? That intersecting point is usually a good one. I go up 1 to the right 2. So it's a positive 1/2. Here is my system for this graph. But again, you have to take it in sets. You have to be comfortable with your slope-intercept form to be able to work on these. You can practice with the rest of these below.